So without further ado, Peter, introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. My name is Peter Papadogiannis. I'm a mental performance consultant or a sports psychology consultant here in the Toronto area. Work at the sports clinic at UTM primarily. And the individuals I work with at the clinic, they are primarily athletes, 14 and above, but they're mostly 18 and above. The kind of lower level in regards to age is 14 and above, and they're highly competitive. So it's a really interesting position to be in helping athletes, because they're all striving for something. Even today, and I'm sure we'll get into what's going on with us currently with our current health challenges. But athletes are always striving, and I love that about the individuals I work with, because they're the path to like this excellence. We always call it excellence. Like, it's never perfection. It's always about this excellence, and we all have this excellence. Even when we are experiencing being at home and social distancing, there are still things that people can do to strive towards this excellence. So I spend my time working with athletes, but I also spend time teaching. So I teach at 3 different places. They're all in the Toronto area. One is York University, and the second is the University of Guelph at Humber. So Guelph and Humber have connected for quite a few years. And the last one is Sheridan. And I teach psychology courses. There's various ones, but I really like the ones that have that excellence piece to it. So like psychology of exercise, group behavior, sports psych as well. Those ones have a little bit different feel to them, because you get a little bit more specific with the content. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like you got a little bit too much going on to have time for your own mental health problems. Or so, like, how do you even deal with yourself? You got a busy schedule. It's a weird time. You know, people are experiencing loneliness and boredom and all these things. What about like just yourself? What do you do to cope these days?
Yeah, great question. And I mentioned that working with athletes, that you have that side to things, but we're all performers, right? I always tell that to people. It's just where you're performing. You're performing at your home, you're performing at work. For athletes, they're performing in an arena or a competitive environment. And I just tell people, and I try to walk it myself these days, because it is challenging. There's one area, a mental skill area, that not a lot of people talk about, but it's awareness. Awareness is one of the greatest skills that predict excellence, but very few people talk about it. So acknowledgement and acceptance is key. And I wish, and I played sport, and it's years ago before doing the sports psych thing, I wish someone told me that, right? If you can acknowledge kind of who you are, what you're feeling, and then accept it, it doesn't mean you're okay with it, right? So you have to wrestle with it, but you have to be able to eventually accept it to move forward. And for sports psych work, it's all about moving forward. It's different than clinical. Clinical, you kind of move back to move forward. With sports psych, you kind of get it in real time, in the moment, but you always use it in moving forward. So back to your question about myself, it's just acknowledging kind of what I'm feeling. And I'll be honest with you, I am frustrated being at home. I do feel challenged not being able to be physically active or the way I was. I love that busy schedule. Before this all happened, I was a little frustrated I was getting too busy. Now I'm missing it, right? And just acknowledging it, right? Acknowledging that we are all experiencing it, but we just experience it in our own way. And then if we are able to do that in sport and outside of sport, you're able to move forward. But you have to reflect in what's going on to be able to have that acceptance piece.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm doing it. Maybe it's not daily, but every couple of days, it's just kind of reflecting, going, okay, how was that other day? How was Monday? How was Wednesday? And every one of the days are flawed. They're never perfect. Again, today it's almost, we're getting away from that, but just being able to be different the following day by reflecting is absolutely.
Yeah. I find it interesting that you say like performance and athletes and that sort of thing, because I think performance can be generalized, or it's all relative. Like, you know, for a lot of people, performing right now is just getting through the day and being happy. You know what I mean? That's performance at that level. Some people, it's performance at professional level with their work. And then there's athletes, but I think there's some overlap on how you could deal with, you know, mental skills with all those three.
Yeah, true. And then, and we'll go back and forth between athletics and just life as we're going. We're talking about mental skills and performers. But I always tell the athletes that I work with, for me, it's all about that athlete being satisfied, right? And people talk about, you need to be happy. And you mentioned happiness. A big part of happiness comes from satisfaction. So at the end of the day, if you are satisfied, you're able to move forward, right? And if you're not, you got to wrestle with it, right? Until you, right? But you have to acknowledge it, right? And then you have to go on to that acceptance piece. But if your goal is to just be satisfied with your day, like whatever it was, right? Like I had 3 meetings, I accomplished it. For you and I today, maybe mine is like just going through the webinar with you, right? Like we talk, you and I outside of here, and now we're recording it. It's a different medium for us. But, you know, at the end of the day, after 45 minutes to an hour, I'll go away from this and go, you know what? I accomplished something. I talked to a person that I work with, that I spend time with, but now I'm doing it in a different way that we're able to give content back. So that might be mine for today, and yours might be something different from today. But I think that's important. Yeah,
totally. I mean, part of what I do is just I set goals, and then it's a self-awareness piece that's tied to that. So like, if for people out there listening who are struggling with this stuff, what are some of is there tactics? Is there drills? Is there skills? Is there things they can practice to help them get through this stuff?
Lots. And we're doing this in regards to the sports, like mental performance work, mostly with athletes outside of here. So I'm talking a lot about this right now, right? And one piece that's really important is being able to control what you can control, right? And in sports psych, they call it control the controllables, right? So for athletes now, we talk about that a lot. It might sound simple, but all those uncontrollable pieces, they get in the way. And they get in the way when you perform, when you're actually in real time performing. So athletes will say they focus more on the judges, their teammates, their coaches. And now they're worried about their season that just passed that got canceled. What are they going to do next year? Right? What's going to happen with their season? And we just tell athletes within the group that I work with as sports psychs that we just say, you got to control what you can control. And for you, goal setting, you know you can control it, right? And if you do it well, you will control the factors, and that will get you quicker to your goal, or you'll be able to go through your goal and feel satisfied with it. So, So how do we translate what you just said to almost more to, let's say, even your current status? There's kids, there's a wife, there's chores to do. The kids are relentless. It's hard to be productive, but you still want goals, and you want to control what you control. And we know this isn't forever. How do you change your outlook a little bit? Because some people just lose perspective, I think. Because I'll be honest with you, and I'll include myself in this at times, it becomes overwhelming, right? When you look too far forward and all the pieces together, it becomes overwhelming, right? It's like, I work with marathon runners, and they're and I'm working still with a couple over the break. And if you think about taking everything on at one time, like a full marathon, it's overwhelming. So if you look at it as 26.2 miles over 40 kilometers and you don't break it down, it's overwhelming. But when you break it down into the first 10 kilometers, the first 5 kilometers, 1 kilometer, just like your day, like the morning I'll do this, or the afternoon I'll do this, evening I have this. It's how you chunk it, right? And even today, like you mentioned, my son and daughter, both active in sport. My son's saying, like, when are we going to the park to play basketball? Right? I'm like, well, I have a webinar coming up. I'll get through that. Right? Got 45 to an hour. Then afterwards, which I told him, got a little school work for an hour, and then we're going to go play. Right? And making some excitement around that. Right? And that's how it's just getting by. And I would be lying to you if I said that wouldn't be frustrating to try to take that on, but it makes it manageable. So I like what you're saying, you're managing your day, and we've had conversations. You're doing your work differently now, getting ready to come back in the future and excited for that. But now you have this new endeavor, right? So webinars, Instagram Live, marketing stuff, like that's key.
And like, I know that I'll say what works for me, because it does work, and it's been working so far, but it's all relative. It's relative to my experiences and what I value. But for me, it's developing new skills. So I was like, I took this time. I was like, I'm gonna start doing webinars. It's not in my wheelhouse. It's not something I'm comfortable with, but I'll offer some value to people. It's gonna keep me on my toes week to week. I'm gonna learn how to get comfortable on YouTube. That's a new thing I took on. And then a few physical things. I'm like, I want to work on learning how to do a handstand and all these other silly things. It's all relative. That's not for everybody, but everyone can find their own goals that will really preoccupy your mind and keep you satisfied.
Yeah. And even with that said, and what you are having me think about, just a word in regards to mental skills training, we talk about it all the time, is mastery.
Yeah.
Right? Very, very few times people who are highly competitive and achievement oriented talk about mastery. They talk about personal bests, they talk about scholarships, they talk about contracts, and the personal mastery piece is decreasing. Like it's not something that becomes the forefront of thinking. And again, all those pieces that are achievement oriented are important for motivation, but personal mastery is incredible, right? And I love that. Like, I want to master a handstand, or I want to get close to what I think my potential is, right? And that's a wonderful thing to be able to do. So for those going out on the webinar, but a lot of people here on the webinar have clients, right? Who, or themselves, like, personal mastery is so important, and being able to track what that is, right? Like, breaking it down. Like, you can break down a handstand. You can break down, and like I'm trying to do better at, like, this part for me, and I mentioned this to you, is that going on Instagram Live, I'm not familiar to until this time, doing webinars, more of them, doing podcasts, and that's new for me. But once you kind of get into it, you become to like, oh, I can do this a little bit better. I can do this a little bit differently, and that feels good, rather than all the achievement pieces that we're used to. So I love that you mentioned that.
It's like the mastery piece. I can relate it back to physio. Like, when someone comes in, it's like, no, you can't always fix them in 1 or 2 sessions, but week to week, you see the little wins happen. You know what I mean? A little bit more emotion, a little bit less pain, a little bit more functional ability with their day-to-day life. The same thing with learning a handstand. It's like every week, I'm not there yet, I get a little bit better, and then that's the little wins you can celebrate during these.
You got it. And there's one more thing, and this is for people outside of our time, but I would love to, and I like to plug this concept, and it's not mine, but it's a sports psych that I found it out in the States. This guy's name is Dr. Jerry Lynch, and he calls it the beginner's mind. I would love for people to look this guy up and look at the beginner's mind. And what he says is, look at performance as a beginner. And that's where mastery comes from. Because the more experience we get, the more history we have that gets in the way, right? So if you can look at things as a beginner, right, at times it's very helpful, right? I almost kind of tell people, go to a park after everything has been cleared up and we're able to get back to some of our daily life, but watch a kid try to master the monkey bars. Or in a playground. And as adults, we don't do that as much. It's all about the outcome, where sometimes just mastering a skill is important.
Yeah. Or like, maybe parents sometimes get really focused, and as they should, on their kid mastering everything, and they kind of lose focus on themselves, maybe mastering 1 or 2 things at the same time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But it's fun though. Like, I can just see for you, like, trying to do it, even though it's frustrating because it's a new skill, can be fun and satisfying. Right? And that's important, right? So I think, and I tell athletes, this is a great time to learn a new skill in your sport.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm going to compare how I feel after 6 hours in a row of Netflix versus mastering a new skill, which one gives you a better feeling at the end? You know what I mean? Not that the Netflix thing is an issue. It totally isn't. But some people, like, I think I have a pretty good mental status at this time, this far into the quarantine, doing that, keeping busy and learning new things.
Yeah, and you mentioned, like, it's almost like you're saying, like, I'll do that. You need the Netflix or on YouTube, like, you need the distraction, and you need for some now, but also from before, athletes tell me, like, that's the way they distract themselves. So going on Netflix for an hour, again, you're not training during an hour, but you need the time away.
Oh,
like,
totally.
we all need that time away. So maybe now it's a little bit different because we have a little bit more time at home, but you still need the distraction and your own time to be able to get to the other pieces that are important for performance.
Yeah. I mean, I guess technically you could be a master of Netflix and watch every show that there is available, and you could be a master at that. Why not, right?
I've been doing a good job lately too. So yeah. So
one thing I'm interested in is when an athlete comes in to see you, or someone who's severely injured or concussed, or one of your patients, let's go with the athlete. What's usually their why? Like, why are you here? Why am I, getting this type of mental skills, assistance, or performance, or edge? What's their why?
Yeah, for the older ones, so older being, again, we have different levels of maturity, but for the ones that are a little bit older chronologically, they're more mature as well for the most part. But for those athletes that are a little bit more seasoned, they understand what their potential is, and then they are falling a little bit short, right? So in their mind's eye, they see themselves at a different place than they currently are, and they know they need some support in moving forward.
Yeah.
Right. So there's always like a disconnect or gap, but the athletes I work with, I always tell them, they're highly successful. Like I always tell them, you're mentally tough already. Like you couldn't do what you're doing without having that mental strength. So now you're just wanting to push it, because when you push the boundaries, and athletes often do, the challenges become different. Yep. And they're there. So challenges are every season, every year, but as you increase your performance level, they're just new, right? So you have to take them on, and often you need help with it. And we have coaches and teachers for so many things, but often not for this. And it blows me away still that people don't see this as important to their end goals. But you'll have a skills coach, you'll have a strength and conditioning coach, you'll have an athletic therapist or physical therapist, you have a sports med doctor for your team or outside, but you don't have someone for this.
Yeah.
So people often think because you're physically gifted, mentally it's going to come with it, but it's in harmony. The greatest performances for people, or the best performances, is like that peak state where the physical and mental, it's like they're coming together.
Yeah, right. And it gets left behind all the time, and it shouldn't, because it's a huge part of daily life, work life, performance life, athletic life, all that stuff, right?
And it's work. I often tell athletes, especially the young ones, if you were to follow a high-level athlete in your sport who's successful, they work on mental skills more than anyone else.
Yeah.
It's incredible. I wish I could say, go watch so-and-so of my clients. Go watch so-and-so, because if you were to listen to them and see them, they do things differently. So if you can just do a little bit of work on mental skills, because most people still don't do it, you will have an advantage within your sport, but also against other people too, because they compete for the most part, athletes. So they want the edge. So you can have an edge within yourself, but also when you compare yourself with others, you're going to have that work that's done. And that's what I'm telling athletes now. Do the work now, so when we get back to sport, you'll still be rusty, but your time in getting back to where you were will be shorter.
Yeah. We got, I think we got about 50 people in the house today. I want you guys to go to the chat box. I want you guys to rate your mental status 0 through 10. 0 being probably my status, 10 being Peter's.
I don't know what, it might be the reverse.
I want to see a few answers there. The other thing I want you to talk about, Peter, is what's the process of like sports psychology like? What is someone going to expect?
Yeah. So yeah, and maybe for people who are in the athletic fields, or more the strength and conditioning pieces, that it's almost similar to the physical. There's always an assessment. So for me, understanding your mental state or status or your mental skills is extremely important, right? So you just can't go from the seat of your pants and say, we're going to work on confidence today, because maybe that's not what the athlete needs. So you have to focus on what are the most important mental skills, and then disentangle them, because confidence has so many layers to it. Resilience has so many layers to it. So we often, in sports psychology, people will talk about it in broad terms, where it would need to be broken down further for each athlete.
Yeah.
Right. So that's important. So that assessment piece, absolutely essential. I go through with athletes. I have certain assessments that I give, and then we go through the assessment process, the reporting of it together. And then the athlete and I will pick a couple areas to work on. That's it. I tell athletes, we can't work on everything. You got to work on 2 to 3 over a period of time, or it could just be one thing.
Yeah.
And for the people I work with, it's always structured around their events, right? They're so highly structured that they have a marathon coming up on this day. They have a world championship on this day, national championships on this day. So you often try to help them peak mentally for their events. So you work on those mental skills pertinent to an event. And then the final piece is you evaluate it. Because what we talk about in an office or in practice is not the same as competition. So you always have to circle back and assess again. Like, what are we missing? What can we do differently? So I'll almost kind of put them in 3 buckets, like assessment, skill building, evaluation, and then we assess again. Skill build, evaluate. And for some athletes, I've worked with athletes for 2 Olympic cycles, like 8 years.
Yeah. Wow.
Over and over and over again.
Do you work with any populations outside of athletes?
Yes, but it's still people who perform. I guess there's performance areas, so like leaders in business.
Yeah.
I'll work with accountants who
Yeah.
try to take on their accounting exam. But I work with a lot of people who may have failed their accounting exam a few times, and there's only one left.
Yeah, that makes sense. Totally.
Dancers, actors.
Yeah.
Right. So performers.
Yeah.
Right. So it's people in the
That's
military.
That's a common theme that I'm seeing here is that, of course, athletes would benefit from it, but there's a lot of people, even like myself, that I'm no longer really an athlete. My athletic career is now over, but there's a lot of performance things, and there's a lot of young professionals that have things that are still performing at. It's just not athletics anymore, and could benefit from the same kind of things, right?
Oh yeah, like it's the arena's different, right?
Yeah.
So where you perform is different, and I haven't heard one person. Again, I talked about in school. I'll talk about the workplaces that you and I work at. I haven't heard someone say that they don't want to be good at what they do. They might not be happy with what they do, but in their mind's eye, people always look towards like what's called self-actualization, reaching their potential.
Yeah.
Right. I think if you close your eyes and you think 1 month, 2 months, 1 year, 2 years, you see in your mind's eye you being successful. It's just how do you get there?
Yeah.
Right. And that's an important, and it could be for a ballet dancer, physiotherapist, a doctor, a surgeon, a lawyer. They all have in their mind's eye of how they want to do.
Yeah. It could be someone who's a little bit older and elderly, and they want to be in better shape or play with their grandkids or be able to walk for 5K, or who knows, right? There's like, it's all relative to where you're at in life.
Hey, very few people are taught how to retire well.
Oh yeah, that's a huge one.
Right? Like that's a career trend. That's a career transition. You get laid off from your job. There's a career transition possibly for you, right? You are trying to take on a new endeavor in the workplace. There might be a transition plan for you. But when you have a milestone moment of retiring from work, there's very few people who get help to support them in that transition, which could be one of the biggest transitions in your entire life.
Yeah.
Right. So there might be something out there for people as a occupation or job for just helping people retire well.
I can already tell you, I'm gonna book weekly sessions with you when I retire in 30 years.
Yeah, at that time, I'm still older than you. So the physical therapy pieces, I'm coming your way. We're exchanging services because my body's breaking down.
I love it. I want you to talk just a little bit about how do people get in to see you at UTM, and I want you to talk about what you have going on with HeadSet right now.
Yep. So in regards to the UTM, going through the website is awesome. It's not that new, but our new website and just getting a hold of us through there, fantastic. So you have all of our pictures, but I'll have a picture bio. You can call in there. That's probably the best way. Some people can find me online too, just from different emails. I still think I have all them work wherever you find me online. So send me an email. I check those almost daily. I'll get back to you, and then we'll circle back to the clinic. So yeah, it's the clinic somewhere I've been for quite a few years, and still like the work that I do there and the people. And so I try to circle my clients back right to the clinic. I do have a new endeavor that I've worked on for a few years, and it's kind of my mastery project right now. Is called Headset. Even wore. I don't wear it that often, but my wife tells me to wear the headset stuff. So it's yeah. We have some golf shirts and stuff that we give away, but so Headset's an online application that is customizable for competitive athletes. And there's a few other apps that are out there, but ours is a little bit different, that it's customizable. No two people go through it the same, which is cool. And it's also data driven. So it's kind of like a physical app that you can track your physical skills. But for us, we track your mental skills, and we'll focus on resilience that I talked about, motivation, confidence, awareness, and stress management. And we send you notifications. We put a plan together for you. It's like a sports psych, but it's a computer with artificial intelligence telling you what you have to do next.
Now, what about someone like, let's say myself, post-athletic career, or like, can this be used for anyone, or is this one is built for the athlete?
It's mostly for athletes, because a lot of the verbiage will be about you competing. There's a lot of competition pieces. We get you ready for games. We debrief you after games.
Yeah.
But the mental skills pieces are still there. And still work a lot with runners and like a lot with the Toronto Marathon. So most people who run are not qualifying for Boston or the Olympic Games. Yeah. But they're one of the most passionate groups that I have worked with and still work with them. I tell them, go on it, right? Log your practices, log your training, right? Get some feedback, learn new mental skills. When you're on your own for 30 plus kilometers, the mental skills will be there. It's just when you're going to have to use them. And once again, I haven't heard from a runner say, I want to do a poor run today, right? I want a really good run today. I want to get the mileage in. I really want to be successful. And this is just a guide for people. So a long-winded way of, it's mostly for competitive athletes. However, we have a lot of people on the system who are active. They're achievement oriented, that they still get a lot from it.
Yeah, you should do a HeadStep Phase 2 for the average Joe, young professional, and the general population, because we can all use it. It makes sense.
We can, and we even for we're internally talking about 2.0, but we kind of have that kind of leadership part possibly for people who are in public safety, who are working in pretty busy, high stress areas. We're going to probably come up with a headset version. So for us, the skills are the same, the mental skills. It's just the wording of it to the population is different. So they can kind of engage with the information because it's pertinent to them. So I love the idea that you have. We're talking about different versions in 2.0, and yeah, if there's a need for it and people come to us, and please do, if you think there is, and people listening, we're all ears, because we want to make a product, again, mastery. We want to, even though I'll never fully have something that it resonates with everyone, I still want to master it. I want to get to as many people as possible to help them. And again, this is an application, so I don't often hear from people, but I do. People email me and say, great mental workout.
Same mindset that I have with these webinars and with the YouTube channel that I just started is like, how many people can I affect in one shot? Yeah, provide value. And it's the same idea. Except you're doing it through an app. I'm doing it through YouTube and this platform.
Yeah,
guys, if we're kind of coming, there's about 5 minutes left. If you guys have any questions directly for Peter, I'll read them for you. Whoever hasn't muted themselves, I'll get you to do that. But you guys can unmute yourselves one at a time if you do want to ask Peter a question. I'll find whoever that is and mute them. Peter, one final takeaway to summarize and put this all together for people.
Yeah, I think I'll go back to kind of where we presently are. It's just trying to put like a plan in place. I hear a lot of times that purpose piece, I don't have that purpose piece. And then it becomes something that people it weighs on them.
Yeah.
There's always a starting point, right? So it could be tomorrow, but just make it really simple, right? It could be one thing that you do. And then once you kind of go through that, add a piece, and then add enough pieces that you feel comfortable with. Because when you add too much right now, we don't have the outlet, right? We don't have the ability to go to, especially for the athletes, go to their gyms, their arenas. We don't have our work, right? So we had to understand that. So in your current environment, creating that purpose and commitment is key, but start small. And then just acknowledge that you're feeling frustrated. It's not going exactly the way you want to, but you're doing something. Because when you come back, and then when we come back, I'm going to ask you, you got to do a handstand for me. So I know this now. So when I see you at work, I'm going to ask you about the handstand.
Well, then I'm going to ask you, show me your handstand.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm working on dance moves.
All right, fine.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'm working on dance moves, YouTube dance moves. I'm there. Oh, yeah, you got it.
We'll do
video. It might be old now. Renegade. I kind of already, maybe there's something new out there. But yeah, my daughter's good with that.
I like it.
Awesome.
Man, listen, thanks for joining. It couldn't come at a better time. I needed this as much as everyone else. I wrote some notes down as I apologize, guys. My video isn't working today. I like to have my video on. It's more personal. I don't know, technical difficulties. You guys are still free to ask questions in the chat box or to come on and ask a question. Just to update you guys, hold on, someone creating a ruckus here. Hold on. Okay, it's good now. This coming Wednesday, April 29th at 11 a.m., both myself and Natalie, our chiropractor, will be coming on to talk about sort of the quick posture stretches and quick fixes that you can do at your desk or at your table that don't require you to get on the floor and do the whole routine that I showed you guys a couple weeks back. So just like some really quick postural stretches, things that you can consider doing every 60 minutes. When I say like you've been sitting for 60, you want to get up and go for a walk, these are some of these little stretches that you can do that take 1 minute, 3 seconds, 10 seconds even, that will make your body feel a little bit better. So we'll be going through those 11 a.m. on Wednesday coming up. I understand that the Prime Minister talks at 11 a.m., but hey, what's more important? No, so guys, I get that. I've been getting feedback. Can you change the time? Well, listen, I got a lot of professionals who agreed to this time. I'm going to follow through with that. So what I've done to compensate for that is I'm putting all this stuff on YouTube. So the same day, later on today, the talk that I just had with Peter will be on YouTube. So if you want to watch the Prime Minister, the same thing over and over again, which I won't blame you. You got to tune in for that. Just check it out on YouTube. I provide the YouTube link in my bio on Instagram. I also provided each email that I sent out to you about these webinars. That's my spiel for that. So,
thanks for doing this, Jared. Thanks for having me.
One of the people just wrote, "Thanks, Peter. My new favorite quote, in the beginners, there are many possibilities." I'm going to post that somewhere in my home. We can all see it. Beginner's mind. I love it.
That's awesome. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for joining us. We'll be in touch, man.
All right. We'll talk soon. Okay. Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Love you guys.